Hello students, Mrs. Sharon here, back for our second week of distance virtual learning for our experiment club for Journey spring semester. Thank you for being willing to work with me through this. We're doing our best to engage you still and provide some fun educational activities for you. Hopefully you did your parachute project already. If not, go back through your email or on Edmodo and look at those videos and complete that project. If you filled out your lab sheet for the parachute project, make sure to send me a picture of that through Edmodo, text, or email. I'm keeping track of who's doing what over this time, and there will be prizes when we come back together, which will hopefully be in the end of April or in early May to finish out the semester together. But until then, hopefully you are enjoying these activities that I am doing my best to provide for your students. Remember, students, that you probably still have to turn in samples to your HST. So you will need to continue to be doing stuff in your science learning. So if you fill out a lab sheet, if you do one of these experiments or all of them, and fill out your lab sheet and maybe take some pictures of you doing the experiment and maybe write up a paragraph or two about what you learned, you could turn that into your HST as a great science sample, okay? So hopefully this is helping simplify our lives during this difficult time. I have been having to change up some of my experiments because some of these experiments don't work so good being done individually or not in a classroom setting, or might include materials that are not easily and readily available to you guys. So I have been trying to find experiments and make adjustments to my lesson plans to make sure that we're doing activities that you can do with supplies that you normally have at home. And so today what we're going to be looking at is leaves, okay? And most of us have access to leaves. If you don't have a lot of trees in your backyard, you can maybe go for a walk if you're allowed to do that and grab some leaves, or maybe if your mom or dad are at the grocery store and there's some trees in the parking lot, you can grab some of those, or maybe grandma has some she can share with you or whatnot. But you should have access to some leaves. So the biggest question that most people have about leaves is what? Sorry, could you speak a little louder? Just kidding. Why do leaves change color? Why do they change color? What happens? So when we do, you'll have a lab sheet for this lab in your inbox and on Edmodo, and we're going to go through together the different pieces of information that you need to fill in on that lab sheet. So the first thing that we do when we fill out a lab sheet is we have a question, like, why are we doing this lab? What's the purpose? What sparked the curiosity? And a lot of times it's just that question. Why do leaves change color? Why are some leaves red in the fall? Why are some yellow? Why do some turn brown? Why are some still green? So those are all questions that we could ask ourselves, right? And then that would be the catalyst or the reason that we would do the experiment, because we want to figure out why leaves change color. The next thing that you want to do is you want to gather background information, especially if you're doing a really big, in-depth, heady experiment. You want to see what other scientists and researchers have found before you. What experiments have been done before you doing yours that could help you maybe take theirs a step further or change it a little bit to get a different result that might help humanity and the discipline of science. But for today, we're going to just look at some background information. Now, if we were together, we could brainstorm some things that we already know about leaves. But again, why are some different colors? Why do they turn colors at different seasons? What makes them change color in fall but not in summer? What is the chemical makeup of the leaf? What's in the leaf that could make it change color? What chemical reaction is happening in there that is affecting the color of the leaf? We'd maybe want to think about, okay, well, some trees lose their leaves and some don't. And so we might need to do a little bit of research about the different kinds of trees, and we will talk about that after we perform the experiment and we talk about our results and conclusion and what we learned. And then we want to think about, okay, now what is the process that the tree goes through to support the leaves? And does anybody know what that is? It's called That's right, photosynthesis. So photosynthesis is the process where the leaf turns the water and the glucose and the sunlight, and it creates some chemical. Does anybody know what that's called? We're going to wait on that for a minute, all right? So that's some of our background information. And then from our background information, we're going to think about it for a while, okay? And we're going to come up with our educated guess or our hypothesis. Okay, so you're going to want to fill in your hypothesis and predict or have your educated guess about what you think you're going to find at the end of your experiment, okay? Now, for our experiment, we're going to need some materials, okay? So the most important material that you need is candy bars. Just kidding, leaves, right? So what I want you to do is collect at least 3 leaves. So hopefully you have a pen and a paper and you're writing this stuff down. It might also be on Edmodo and in your email too. But you need 3 leaves. You need some rubbing alcohol. Now most of us have rubbing alcohol in our homes for cleaning wounds, or I actually use rubbing alcohol for actual cleaning my house. So rubbing alcohol, you need a jar or a glass cup, okay? A plastic bag or plastic wrap, a coffee filter. Now most of us have coffee filters, right? And then a bowl or a pan, okay, a shallow pan, a spoon, and hot water. So go ahead, put me on pause and gather up those supplies. Just kidding, that's not pause. All right, and then our procedure, okay? Our procedure is the steps that we're gonna take to complete this lab. So the first thing you're gonna do is break up your leaf into tiny pieces, okay? I don't have one with me right this minute, but break up your leaf into tiny pieces, and then you're gonna put it in your jar. When you put it in the jar, go ahead and pour some rubbing alcohol over it. Now, not the whole bottle of rubbing alcohol, and don't fill the whole jar. You just need enough to cover the broken up leaves in the bottom. The next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna take that spoon and you're gonna use it to mash up your leaves. You need to break the surface of those leaves. You don't need to break them into tinier pieces, but you just need to score the surface of the leaves and really mash them up. Now do this really good because the results of your experiment will vary based on how well you mash up your leaves. The next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna cover that jar with the plastic bag or the plastic wrap. You might wanna also have a rubber band to secure that on top to keep that heat inside. And then you're going to take your shallow bowl or dish, you're gonna put hot water in it, and then you're gonna place the jar that has the cover on it with the leaves and the rubbing alcohol inside into the hot water. And you're going to leave it there for 30 minutes to an hour, okay? So 30 minutes to an hour, leave the jar sitting there. After 30 minutes to an hour, you're going to then get your coffee filter and you're gonna cut it into strips, okay? And you're gonna take the longest strip, you're gonna put the bottom of the strip into the rubbing alcohol that the leaf has been sitting in, and you're gonna drape the coffee filter over the top of the leaf. Now, I will likely send out pictures of me doing this lab in my kitchen with your email and on Edmodo so you can see what mine looks like at the beginning and at the end, okay? But hopefully you do it yourself too, okay? So, and then after you do the coffee filter so that it's in the rubbing alcohol and then up over the top of the jar, you're gonna let that sit for another hour, okay? So this is gonna take a while. And then we're gonna see something happen, okay? And what we see happen is gonna be where we're going to write out our results and our conclusion. Now remember, our results is how we communicate our results, and then our conclusion is what we learn. What's the takeaway from the experiment? And then also, what could we do differently next time? So I'm going to stop the video here to allow you to go do the experiment, and then I'm gonna post a part 2 video that talks about what we can learn from this experiment and what's happened. I don't want to include that now because I want to give you time to do the experiment and I don't want you to be tempted to jump ahead, okay? So go do your experiment, be careful working with the hot water, ask for permission to take the leaves off trees. Hopefully you have some leaves because it's just the beginning of spring, right? Are we in spring yet? No, it's not. Yes, it's just spring. Just a couple days ago. We missed it. the vernal equinox. Anyways, I believe it's the 21st of March. But go ahead and go find some leaves, and we will touch base in a few.